Hi, Research9. We're going to talk today about how to organize your data and graph it in Google Sheets. My advice to you, if you at all have the option of using Microsoft Excel, please do that. It's much better. But for those of you who don't have access to Excel, this is how you should do it. I'm going to do my best. I am not a Google Sheets guy, and probably the most difficult thing here is going to be the graphing part, because Google Sheets doesn't have settings that do what we normally want to do, so we're going to have to work around them. So what I have here is sample data. This is fake data from that kind of mimics how many of you have been organizing your data. Many of you have done this thing where you have, like I wanted you to, you have your control separated from your experimental groups. But then some of you actually made whole tables that were separate for different participants, and I kind of wanted to show how we would organize that. First thing is, I just want to show you some of the spreadsheet math. And this is the same in Excel as it is in Google Sheets. Now, these are the numbers from the experiment, right? We had incongruent time and then congruent time, the super effects being the difference. What I want you to do is to have Excel do the math for you so that you don't have to think about it, okay? And so instead of doing the math on a calculator and writing it in, what I'm gonna do is type the equals sign. Equals indicates to Excel and to Google Sheets that you're about to do a math problem. So you're like the contents of the cell should display whatever equals this formula, what I'm going to do, right? So it's going to be it's going to represent whatever the whatever the result of the experiment is. So whatever the result of the formula is. So if we type equals and then I click on the incongruent number, it'll automatically type C13. I'm going to type minus, and then I'm going to click 15.2. Right, so so then it ends up writing out equals C13 minus D13. I could have written out equals C13 minus D13, but I don't want to keep track of what is what on my spreadsheet. It's easier to just click. So then if I just hit enter, it displays the answer to that math problem. But notice this is not the number 6.9. This is actually just the result of the math. So if I highlight this and you look up on the top where the formula is, it still displays this formula. Or if you double click on it, it shows the actual formula here. Now I could do this 2 more times for this, but it's actually easier for me to do something else. If I hover over the lower right-hand corner until, see that little box there, and then my cursor becomes a plus, like an even-sided cross. If I hold that, if I hold that and drag it, it's going to copy and paste the cell. It's not going to copy and paste the number 6.9. It's going to copy and paste the formula of subtract one thing, but minus from the thing to his left. And so I end up with these. So this was C13 minus D13, but then this becomes C14 minus D14, and this one becomes C15 minus D15. That's great. I don't want to type this a million times. Same thing with the averages. I can make Excel do an average for me. I'm going to type in the word equals average, open parentheses, and it's average what? I'm going to average, so I'm going to select all of these. C13 colon C15, from C13 to C15. Close parentheses, enter, and it gives me the average. And now because it's saying the average of the 3 numbers above this cell, if I do my little trick and I go to the lower right-hand corner and drag it over, it's going to average all these numbers too. Okay. Something to note, you may end up with a lot more decimal places. I've rounded mine by using this increase and decrease decimal places buttons. So the real, oh, this is actually, the average of this is actually 7. Is it? Yeah. But like this number is actually 13.83 bar, right? But if I click on decrease decimal places, I can get it down to just the 10th place, which is all I really need. It looks cluttered otherwise. Okay, so these are my data. Now, I only have 2 IV levels, and that's totally fine. When I want to analyze my data, I really just want to organize by IV and DV, and that's it. When I want to do my math, don't want to get confused. And my IV here is, I didn't decide what it is. I would just say it's generic IV. right? It's control or experimental. All right, control, experimental. Okay, my DV is the Stroop effect. So I actually really only need this number, these numbers, these differences. Okay, so I'm not going to break up participant 1 and participant 2 into separate groups. That's all my control values on this left side. So I actually just want these 6 numbers to be under control, and these 6 numbers of the Stroop effect to be under my experimental, and then so I can compare the 2 groups. So if I select these 3 and hit the copy button, so I do Command C, Control C, and then I paste here, Control or Command V. Uh-oh, my numbers are 0. Why is that? It's because I copied and pasted formula, not numbers. Okay, so currently what's going on is it's trying to do the subtraction trick here, the numbers next to it. And so it's not, it's gonna get 0. I want 9.7, 8.3, and 11.3. So let's try that again. I'm gonna copy and paste. And actually there's a handy thing that comes up with Google Sheets. I'll give Google Sheets this. If I go paste formatting, it's like, is this really what, I actually don't wanna paste the formula, I just wanna paste the values. So if I click paste values only, now it's the numbers 9.7, 8.3, and 11.3. These are not formula anymore. It's just the numbers. I'll do the same over here. Okay. Now I'm going to show you another trick. You can actually select discontiguous sections of your spreadsheet. So I don't want to do that twice again. So I'm going to actually select these 3 numbers. And then I'm going to hold down the Command or Control key and then select these 3 numbers. And that actually allows me to select 2 discontiguous sections. I'm going to do now Command C, copy, and Command V to paste. It's giving me these weird negative numbers because it's actually just subtracting these numbers next to it because it's still the formula. So I'm going to go to the values. These are my values. Okay, these are all the numbers that I need, but I actually just want to organize this a little bit so that it looks cleaner. One is I just want to be clear so we don't forget that this is the Stroop effect in seconds. I haven't written the word seconds or any letters in here because the spreadsheet is going to get confused and not be able to do math when you put words in the boxes. So Stroop effect seconds, and actually what I'm going to do is to make this centered over both of these, I'm going to select both of these cells. And then use the, if you see up here, the merge cells button, and that makes one big cell. Okay. Then the other thing is I actually want everything centered up. So I'm going to do Command A or Control A. I'm going to do it twice so it selects everything. And then I'm going to make sure everything is in the center. So it looks nice. Okay. And then I can put borders around my table. So that's nice and clean, right? Now, some of you may want to still note what numbers came from who. So there's nothing that stops you from specifying these things in case that matters to you. So I can put like what, participants and then trial, right? So this is the first 3 of these numbers are participant 1 and trial 1, 2, and 3, right? Participant 2, trial 1, 2, and 3. That's fine. Like if you want to add that to your table for clarity, power to you, right? But it doesn't really matter for the math. So all I need for my graph, as always, is the mean and just the standard deviation for our error bars. So I'm going to put mean here, and I'm going to calculate the average. Equals average, same as we learned before, open parentheses, select the numbers that we want to average, close parentheses. This is my average. It's 8.38. Okay. This is a very large, I mean, because I made up these numbers. Stroop effect shouldn't really be that many seconds, but what are we going to do? So I'm going to decrease decimal places. 8.3 is just fine, or 8.4 rather. And then I'm not going to type in the average thing again. I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm going to go to this lower right-hand corner and drag it over. Bam, we got our other average. And then my standard deviation. Spreadsheets can also calculate this. Standard deviation, STDEV. I want STDEV.S. S stands for sample. So we want the sample standard deviation. There's a couple different ways we can calculate it. We want the sample way. standard deviation.s, stded.s, select my numbers that I want to do. Be careful not to select the mean. Okay, we want the standard deviation of just our numbers. Don't include the mean. And so this one has a standard deviation of 1.79, and this one has a standard deviation of 4.43. And I'm going to round them using my, so it looks clean. Okay, great. Now, if this were Excel, we could graph this immediately. But here's the Google Sheets problem is that I want to have this mean graphed and then have error bars of 1.8 above and below the mean. And I want to have this experimental one be graphed at 7.3, the bar go up 7.3 seconds, and then a standard deviation of 4.4 seconds. Those are different. And so for whatever reason, Google Sheets is not trained to give different bars different error bars. And so we're going to do something really silly. Okay, so this is just for graphing. We're going to do control experimental, control experimental. Okay, so I'm making the X and Y axis the same. Okay, and so my control number here was 8.4. Ooh, I'll just type it in, 8.4. My experimental number is 7.3. Okay, looks silly, but this is actually what we're going to need to graph this. So I'm going to select this weird graphing table and then do file, no, insert, chart. And here's the chart that it makes. Not bad, not the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't want a bar chart, I want actually a column chart so that the bars go up. Okay. Now there's a couple things here now that we're in the chart editor that we can do. But the most important thing here is that we go to customize. And then we can do things like in our horizontal axis, can we label? Oh, chart and axis titles, right? This is, so I don't want a chart title because we're gonna actually put that in our, beneath, I don't want a legend. I'm gonna click on that and delete it. So I can click on elements and then hit the delete button, it'll remove it. But I do want, under chart and axis titles, I do want my axis titles, which would be where? Oh, chart title, horizontal axis title. So my x-axis, I want to write independent variable, whatever my independent variable is. And then I'll select my vertical axis and I'll type Stroop effect in seconds. And that appears. Okay. Now the tricksy part. Now I have not yet figured out how to make like an actual y-axis with a line there. If you know how, please tell me because I can't figure it out. But I want to add error bars with my standard deviations. And so if you go under, in your, still in the customize menu, you go under series. Now my graph is kind of covering everything up. Great. Under series, there's this little check for error bars. So I'm going to check on error bars. And the type is not a percent. So now it's just doing 10% of each of these numbers. And that's fine, but that's not at all what we're interested in. I'm going to put a constant. So I put constant here, that I can tell what the numbers are. Now, hold on. I made a mistake. I don't want to apply these to all series. This is the trick, is because I put them in two different columns over here. They're two different series. So for the control, I'm going to go to control first, add an error bar. That's going to be a constant. And that constant is going to be the one that, for the control, I've already looked it up. It's, right, 1.8. We've already calculated it. Great. Now I'm going to go to, maybe I want to make my control bar like this color for some reason, okay? Then experimental, same thing, error bars. Constant, and we've calculated that already. It should be 4.4. Right, and so we actually get different, and maybe I want this one to be, I don't know, the same, we can make it even the same color. So it's uniform. Okay. So this is like the best I could do in terms of formatting the graph in this program, in this application. Close my chart editor. This is a graph that's okay. And so the only thing that's missing now is the title and the description, which exist in a caption that go underneath the graph. So if I insert, is it a drawing? Insert a text box. And I want to call it what? Figure 1. And then I'm going to write my title of graph here, whatever the title happens to be, period. And then I'm going to have a description of the graph. So the description I could write out like, you know, plotted are the means of troop tests performed on 2 individuals for 3 trials each. I don't know. And then we can say the error bars represent plus or minus 1 standard deviation. Write out SD, that's fine. All right, save and close. Here's my little text box, which I can now place underneath my graph. Not the best looking, oh my God, that's a picture. This is so silly looking. Did I mention that I don't like Google Sheets? Okay. All right, so here's my graph. Just reminding you that the plus or minus 1 standard deviation, that means that we see the mean here. We don't have all your numbers that we've ever seen, but we see the mean, and we know that this is the middle, and then this is where most of the data exists. This is where 68% of the data are predicted to exist, or between these 2 bars, same thing here. This has got a lower mean, but the numbers are much further spread out. And so if we were to say, if I were to look at this, I would say probably there isn't going to be, I haven't taught you how to do this, it probably isn't going to be a huge statistical difference between these 2 groups because there's so much overlap between the numbers that it'll be hard to say that whatever our experimental treatment was changed anything definitively. So that's what I'm expecting you to try to do and accomplish this week. Give it a try. If you have any problems, let me know. And just, again, if you have any chance of getting Excel and using it, please use that and use my other video, and I'll show you how to do it. So that's that, and have a great week.